Hey, Megan.
Yes?
Have you seen Jennfer's body?
I have seen Jennfer's body.
Oh my God, me too. Have you seen the Hurt Locker?
No, I don't think I have.
Me either.
Well.
No wonder they do that all the time. It's really fun to do.
It really is really fun to do.
Just whacked my head on the shelf. Slay. That's the energy that's coming to you in this episode.
Now you have. And hello, we are not your normal podcast hosts.
We kicked them out.
We killed them.
They're dead. They're actually back there.
Because it's Women's History Month and men don't matter anymore.
Not right now.
Only women matter.
31 days. We matter.
We matter.
We matter.
April 1st, gone.
Gone.
We won't exist anymore. We'll only exist in the ether realm.
April Fools. Women don't really exist.
We're just a concept.
Exactly. So yeah, we really thought about a theme we could bring for Women's History Month, and we decided on the Good for Her cinematic universe. Megan, please tell us what the Good for Her cinematic universe is.
Well, the Good for Her cinematic universe is really just any iteration of a woman or girl receiving her flowers, or where she gets revenge. I would say she gets revenge upon whomever has wronged her, or maybe just kind of deserves it. And so the reason that we chose the two films that we did was, well, one, Jennfer's Body is the ultimate female,
the classic,
the epitome of a female rage film.
Yes, seminal.
And then The Hurt Locker, obviously, for Catherine Bigelow receiving her flowers as the first woman to ever receive the Oscar for Best Director, which
in like 2000. Well, the movie came out in 2008. I guess I looked it up. The Oscars that year were in 2010.
Were they? Oh, I thought.
I don't know. She won Best Director for that. Okay, and
was,
the Oscars had been around almost 100 years.
Yeah.
So
they just did what, the like 96th Oscars?
Yes, we just had. Listen to that episode if you haven't. That just came out.
Plugging that episode.
Woohoo! But yeah, so, and we've had actually since then 2 more women win Best Director. 2 in a row. They really gave it to us. They're not giving it to us again, but it was really fun while it lasted.
Wait, 2 in a row is Chloe Zhao?
Chloe Zhao won for Nomadland, and then Jane Campion for Power of the Dog the year after.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
I totally believe you. It's so funny because I was the one who made the game. And I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I was really hardcore skimming. I wasn't exactly, because I was looking for specific answers.
It's okay.
So, yeah. So slay.
You're a beautiful woman, and you should never have to do more work than you want to.
Thank you.
So, and that's the spirit.
And I'll also never apologize, even if I make a mistake. I think if there's anything that I like in female cinema is women doing things wrong and not apologizing.
Yeah.
A la Gone Girl.
Yeah. Men get to do things wrong all the time, and they're anti-heroes and cool dudes and can do whatever they want.
Exactly.
The moment a woman is complicated, it's like, what? She killed a person? I don't know what to do. Like,
do we want to talk about the fact that everyone is hypothesizing that Kate Middleton has Gone Girled William? She just,
honestly, if she did, I respect her so much more than I used to.
I'm hoping and praying that that's what it is. That it
would be awesome.
Because what would be better than a high profile Gone Girl situation where
Nothing.
She just shows up? But I'm trying to figure out, okay, like who's Neil Patrick Harris in this situation?
You're right.
I'm like, are we just
because I almost think it would be really funny if she totally ditched the UK altogether and is like hanging out at Harry and Meghan's house. Oh my God. Like, wouldn't that be so much fun? Like, what if she was like, she had like a come to Jesus moment. She was like, guys, I am so sorry I was going along with everything they were telling me to do. Because I think actually I should be here with you guys. You seem like you get to be on Netflix. You seem like you're having a lot of fun.
You're friends with Beyonce and Serena Williams.
That's what I'm saying. Like, she was probably like, okay, be married to my balding husband who cheats on me, hanging out with my cool in-laws. Gonna go cool in-laws if we're honest. So
it's like, and then who knows? Maybe she'll get her Oprah episode. And
were you silent or were you silenced?
Which is just the best.
It's kind of the best thing that came out of that entire situation.
I probably say that 14 times a day.
I agree.
Because it's just so iconic.
And it's so evocative.
It is. It really is.
Literally, were you silent or were you silenced?
And hey, if we're talking about women
are constantly being silenced. And not even just women, just people who aren't men.
People who are not men, genuinely. If you are like a non-binary person, or like, God help you if you're a woman of color, they're like,
did you literally, or even a man of color, if we're being honest.
So basically, if you're just not a white man, welcome to no one's listening.
Welcome. You know, welcome to the club. We've all been here. So,
do you remember in Princess Diaries when her friend? This is what female empowerment looks like.
It's like, I'm like, I will hold that hand.
Mostly because my hand's really cold. Where her friend in Princess Diaries, Lily, she had her cable show that was called Shut Up and Listen.
Oh my God, yes.
That's what this is.
I haven't thought about that in so long. I was obsessed with her when I was a kid. I was like, I need to be her. I need to have my own show in school.
Genuinely. I would not want to be her as a friend, though, because
she's a terrible friend.
She was like, your dad died 2 months ago. Aren't you over that? And it's like,
I need you to be serious. I need you to be really serious
2 months?
Right now.
That's like, if it was the full 2 months, that's 8 weeks. That is not a long time to get over the death of your father.
Like, even if she'd been like, it's been a year since your dad died, you should be over it. I would have been like, it would have been a little more okay, but it's still like, what's wrong with you?
It's genuinely, it's like, girl, like, so for real right now.
I don't know that that's something you get over.
Yeah.
It's just kind of something you deal with. As someone who's dealt with a lot of grief related to people being dead in the last couple of years, like, it doesn't, like, you don't get over it.
Yeah.
You know? So
grief is one of those things that, wow, we're really getting into this. Like,
welcome.
Hi. So now we're going to talk about Jennfer's body.
Everyone who was like, everyone is tuning out.
Everyone's like, bye, actually.
We're going to talk about Jennfer's body, I promise.
Yes. Do you want to start with Jennfer's body?
Let's start with Jennfer's body. Let's start with kind of the classic, what people are thinking of the most when they think of good for her.
Yeah.
And to me, this is kind of the epitome of the most likable good for her protagonist.
Yes.
I think a lot of them, I don't personally consider Midsummer good for her because so much is awful, and it's technically like, it's like good for her, and then you're like, wait, it wasn't good for her.
Maybe cults are bad.
Maybe cults are bad. Maybe the cult that raped your boyfriend isn't the good guy.
Oh my gosh, Midsummer literally depicts a cult. It's literally endorsing cults.
It's endorsing it. It's actually telling you to join a cult.
At no point does Ari Aster come out right and say, guys, cults are bad. So it's literally endorsing. It's literally endorsing cults.
Like, I genuinely believe that people really want, like in The Emperor's New Groove, when Cusco comes out and he starts drawing on the screen and he's telling them about what's about to happen, how he felt. People literally want filmmakers to come out and do that.
Genuinely. But then y'all get mad when directors handhold. It's like, so which do you want?
You can't complain that your English teacher made you discuss why the curtains were blue and then be like, I don't understand things.
Yeah.
You can't complain about the lack of media literacy and then not do your English homework, okay? Do your English homework. If you're someone in school and you're listening, do your English homework.
Dang, that's an endorsement for English homework.
Literally, I'm like,
unequivocal.
Do you want to learn or do you want to be stupid your entire life? Is my question.
I mean, I would prefer to be stupid because those people seem like they're having a great time.
It seems really fun to not have any cohesive thought whatsoever, but it's so hard to be so beautiful,
so beautiful and so smart.
Which is also kind of the plot
and have such
of Jennfer's
a fat
body.
ass.
It's the plot of Jennfer's body.
Genuinely.
It is. No, so
who's the protagonist of Jennfer's body?
See, and I was going back and forth on it because this time I watched it. We both recently rewatched it to talk about it in this episode, even though that was probably the 13th or 14th time I've seen it.
Yeah.
Because pretty much every year around the anniversary of it coming out, I watch it. Because it's the best movie ever.
Because it's the best movie ever made.
So, I mean, like, I wonder. Because we start with Needy. Needy is our narrator.
Yeah. She is our insert character.
I guess she is, but then there's the question of, is Jennfer
the protagonist,
or is she the antagonist?
Because
technically she is.
She's kind of both. If we're going to relate her to someone like Amy from Gone Girl, where it's like she is both the antagonist and the protagonist.
Yes.
Because she has a lot of reasons for doing the things that she does. All good. All good.
Look, I agree with her.
I mean, look,
I agree with her.
If my man cheated on me, I would also spend like a year and a half
like
draining his credit cards. And
you know that John Mulaney joke where he was like, I never understood why people killed their partners, and then I got cheated on in a long relationship and I went, oh, okay.
Yes.
That was how I felt after getting out of a very long-term relationship that I thought was like the relationship of my life. And you really sit there and you're like, maybe she was right.
Yeah.
Maybe she had some points there.
Maybe she had points.
And then your mom is like, it's 4 p.m. Have you eaten anything today? And you're like, maybe that's why I'm crazy. But also, was Amy Dunn correct? Who's to say?
I mean, and was Jennfer Check correct in...
Yes, period.
Because, I mean, she is like murdering and disemboweling boys, but they're just boys, so like who cares?
They're just boys. Like it is so perfectly about being a teenage girl where you care so much what boys think of you, and also not at all.
Genuinely,
they're the duality of Needy caring so much what the boys in her life think versus Jennfer being like, as if I don't even care. Why would I care?
Literally,
I could give a shit. Like,
I think it's really telling that after, which spoilers for a movie that came out years ago that the boys already did a podcast on, no? On Jennifer's Body?
I don't think so.
Oh, maybe we just all had a night where we watched it because it's really slay.
We did have a night. We were showing Shane
Jennifer's Body, and of course he loved it because it's the best movie ever made.
Yeah. So,
I think it's really telling that after Jennfer is disemboweled herself, the first person she goes to find is Needy. She doesn't go to find even her mom or like she doesn't go try to find a boy. She's like, no, I gotta go find my best friend.
I need my bestie.
I need my besties.
Like,
and then she vomits up demon.
I love the
sludge.
inflection that she uses, that Amanda Seyfried uses, where she's like, looked like roadkill and sewing needles like mixed together. Like the way I know this entire movie by heart. Like I don't even have to watch it anymore. Like I could have it on in the background and be like, and I got it. Nobody worry. I know what's going on.
You're like
So I wanted to like, maybe we can come back around. We can backtrack a little. And when was the first time you watched Jennifer's Body?
I watched it for the first time with a friend. A girlfriend. It was probably a few years after it had come out.
Came out in 2009, by the way.
Yeah. So this was probably like, I don't know, 2011 or 2012 when I watched it. And we just watched it in her bedroom. And I think she was like a pretty big fan of horror. And she was like, have you seen Jennifer's Body? And I was like, no, is it? And then my first question was, is it really scary? Because I'm a baby when it comes, or I used to be a baby when it comes to horror. I'm better now. But if I'm going to watch something really scary, I have to watch something really fun right after or I can't sleep.
Yeah.
So we watched it and I was like, that is not what I thought that was at all. It's like, it's scary, don't get me wrong, but it's not like a horror movie in that way.
No, it's technically
not like a traditional horror movie.
No, it's technically listed as a horror comedy and there are horror parts there. I think you'd have to really be like not familiar with horror whatsoever to have a part of that movie scare you in any way.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
My best friend, Sarah Kate, like, I think she would probably be a little spooked by it. I don't know that she would be scared, because I don't think even if you're not used to a horror movie, you're going to be super scared. But I do think it has its, like, tense moments. Like, this time it was sticking out to me that it really is that scene where Needy's come back home and she's wandering around. She's like crying on the phone to Chip, and you're seeing like her shadow in the background and blah, blah. Like that part is like really fun and spooky to me.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people wanted that movie to be way more scary than it was. Like it was very ahead of its time.
Yes.
Very ahead of its time. I think it's also got really fun meta stuff in it that it was too late after Scream and too early for new Scream.
That's so funny. I was literally just going to say, I was gonna be like, Shane and I just rewatched 1 through 4 Screams, and I was like, that is so funny that scene is almost like plucked directly from Scream, not like in an homage type of way.
Yes.
Where it's like, this is the Scream scene.
Yes.
This is Drew Barrymore walking around making her popcorn. Like,
absolutely.
And then instead of it being Ghostface, it's Megan Fox covered in blood, possessed by a demon. And it's like, if I was gonna see one or the other, I'd probably pick Megan Fox.
Megan Fox as Ghostface win.
Hollywood,
they're making another one.
Don't be a coward. Cast Megan Fox as Ghostface.
Cast Megan Fox. Bring back Melissa Barrera. Give her flowers. Say you're sorry. Nev's already signed it back on. So.
Oh, did she? Oh, thank God.
That's brand new news, though. This is such an aside, but yes,
okay.
Nev Campbell has signed back on to do another Scream movie, and actually Kevin Williamson, who screen wrote the first 3 movies, is coming to direct for the first time. So. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see how it goes. We'll see.
No,
Melissa Barrera has said that she didn't feel like her character was done before she was unceremoniously fired. Interesting.
That's weird.
But yeah, like I think Megan Fox has the juice.
She is, honestly, because I think as someone who's also very hot, people really just count me out a lot because they're like, well, she's just super hot and has a great rack.
Absolutely.
So it's like people are constantly like, you're just too gorgeous. I mean, this happens to me all the time.
It happens to you all the time. I've been there as it's happened to you.
People are just constantly, Megan, someone dropped out of the model show. You got to do it. And I'm like,
are always going, please, Megan, we're just down a Victoria's Secret angel. We love you. And I unironically am believing in that.
And I must oblige my public. They love me.
The fan club.
But I was watching this and I was like, because I think Amanda Seyfried is like killing. She is so good. It's funny to watch her in something like Mean Girls and then watch her in something like this and then watch her in like
Mamma Mia.
No, I was not going to say Mamma Mia, but Mamma Mia. Let's say Mamma Mia because that came out around the same time that Jennifer's Body came out, which is like...
Yeah, they're only like a year apart.
That is a crazy back-to-back.
Oh, yeah.
Like 2 films to do.
Between Mean Girls and Jennifer's Body is only like 5 years.
Yeah. And she's so... Like, I'm not watching Amanda Seyfried be needy. I'm watching Needy.
Yeah.
And I, like... Because I think a lot of people would say that Jennfer in Jennifer's Body is like, well, she's an easy role to play because you just be like the high school bitch most of the time and then you just be a demon the rest of the time. But I disagree because Jennfer is very likable.
She's so likable.
She is someone when I was in high school, I would have been like, I worship her.
Yeah.
Like unironically. And if I was friends with her, I would have been obsessed. Like just
like Needy.
Just like Needy is. Because I think when boys and men watch this movie, I think they don't quite like, well, why would Needy be friends with Jennfer? It's like, because look at her.
Because they've been best friends forever. Just because one of you is quote unquote the babe and one of you is quote unquote the geek. That's the funniest part of this movie is Amanda Seyfried telling you via narration. She's like, no one knows why a babe like Jennfer would hang out with a geek like me. And it's like you just put glasses on her and gave her kind of a... Like, she doesn't even dress schlubby. She just dresses like cute, like quiet, cute nerd girl. She has glasses. Her hair isn't fully as done up and blown out. Like, she's still beautiful Amanda Seyfried. That's the funniest part of this whole movie.
And she just isn't wearing false eyelashes. It's like, man.
Literally. She's just not got like this perfect, gorgeous, like pink lip on that I will never, ever know how to recreate. It makes me so sad. I want to so bad. Like I need to speak to the makeup artist of Jennfer's body and be like, I know people are probably asking about the SFX. Don't worry about it. I need you to tell me exactly what that lip combo was. I need to know right now. The best part is Needy going, Jesus didn't invent the calendar.
Whatever.
They have the funniest friendship. You're right. Like it is so like one of those friendships you had in high school.
Yeah.
And if like I didn't have as many of those, but I also didn't have a lot of friends.
Girl, same.
Like,
well, I was also in theater, so all of me and my friends were losers. So
yeah, like that's the funny part. Like, but we all remember that girl that we used to see walking down the hallway where you're like, why does she look so good? Like, what is different in her water that is making her look like this?
Exactly. She looks different. She carries herself different. She just is, but you don't hate her. You want to hate her, but you just can't, because the times you've interacted with her or based on the things that she does, you're just like, no, she's just a bad bitch. Like that's just who she is. And like, yeah, the thing about Jennfer is she does say like objectively mean things.
Oh yeah.
Or like, now this movie came out in like 2009, so the things she says aren't as offensive. They weren't as offensive then as they are now. Like saying the R slur.
You're like, oh, every time I remember this, I'm like, Chris Pratt drops the F slur.
I know. And I was like, which is very on brand for a Chris Pratt character, but I digress upon that. I'm not here to talk about Chris Pratt.
Andy from Parks and Rec would never, is all.
Andy from Parks and Rec would never.
But it's just very like sometimes I show people this movie and they're like, this is kind of offensive. And I'm like, yeah, but like it's of the time. I think everything you have to watch as of the time, and you can have a lot of issues with it, but you kind of also still have to step out of it. Like there's a lot of 80s movies where I'm like, Lord have mercy. And then I'm like, but you know what? That's how it was back then. Sometimes if you really like a movie, you're just like, whatever, I'll move on from this. And if you don't like a movie, you don't like a movie. But like I don't particularly care for The Breakfast Club or 16 Candles, but I really like Dirty Dancing. It's all just personal taste.
It's all
personal taste. But if you don't like Jennfer's Body, you're dumb.
I was about to say, I was like, but if you don't like Jennfer's Body, you have bad taste. Sorry.
I never said when I first watched.
Oh, I'm
Jennfer's
so
Body.
sorry.
No, you're good. I just realized. I was sitting here.
Did you see it in theaters?
I never. No, I was
about to say.
I would have been 10.
I was about to say. I was like, I think you might have been too little to go see that in theaters.
You're not that much older than me.
I was about to say, to be fair, I was like, if I was old enough to see it, I was probably like just old enough. This is PG-13, right?
No, it's rated R.
Oh, no, then I would have had to take my mommy to see it.
Yeah, because, 2009.
So neither of us were old enough to see it in theaters.
No, I would have been, 10. So, but so I probably heard of it in high school when I was probably like, what are gay movies I can watch? Like, someone tell me a gay movie I can watch so I can like feel like the way that any young kid who's like thinking about their sexuality is like, can someone please show me a movie? I need to learn something today, like now. Mm-hmm. And luckily I did not stumble upon like Blue is the Warmest Color or anything. I managed to find Jennfer's Body. And I remember, I think I probably asked for an Amazon gift card so that I could buy things with the gift card. And I think Jennfer's Body was one of the things that I bought on DVD.
The best purchase you ever made.
And I remember watching it for the first time on my laptop, getting ready for a New Year's Eve party. And I was like, this is incredible. Why is no one talking about this movie? This is the coolest movie I've ever seen. Like, it was just like every line is so quotable in that movie. It looks fun. The soundtrack is like so killer in every single way. So I rewatched it a lot. And then I was lucky enough in 2018, they were showing it at the Alamo in my college town. Mm-hmm. That was like best day of my entire life. Actually, that was the first time I've ever been to an Alamo Drafthouse.
Really?
Yes. And
then you were converted.
And then we almost got kicked out because we were all like giggling and like we were being chatty, and we were being very chatty at the Alamo Drafthouse. Okay. And then they were like, you guys need to be quiet. We were like, oh. But also I'm like, who's going to the Jennfer's Body showing at the Alamo Drafthouse and isn't having a hoot and holler in time? I'm like, that should have been a movie party. Like, be serious.
I was just about to say, like, Shane and I went to the Twilight brunch at Alamo. Probably, you went to the same. You didn't?
No.
I don't know who I'm thinking.
I wish I had, but
COVID has permanently messed up my memory, and fair. I get people mixed up now. I'm like, this is what dads must feel like when their daughter's like, my friend that I've had for 7 years, and it's like,
beats me.
No, I don't know. All your friends look the same to me. And it's like, why? Do you know who I am?
Literally.
It's like, yeah, you're I'm your daughter. Remember raising me? Yeah, you at the place.
I don't think dads remember any of that.
No, they don't.
No.
They're like, but if you bring up the time that you're like, remember, if you bring up a movie moment, they're like, and then they can like recite it.
If I'm like, Dad, so who was opening for the Cowboys in 1985? He'd be like, I'll tell you exactly who that is. And I'm like, thank you for that.
Yep. Mm-hmm. My dad is not as much of a football guy, but man, he really loves movies. And if you ask him anything about a movie that he'll just even have seen it once, and he'll be like, yeah, it was this guy and this guy, and this is what happens, and then and I'm like, and you don't remember my friend who's been coming over here for 10 years?
When was I born?
And there's like,
any memories?
Memories of my childhood.
My dad's like, yeah, the place that sold sandwiches next door. I'm like, thank you for that.
You're like, okay. That fun conversation,
fair,
Dad.
Great deli.
Hey.
It's a great deli.
So, I mean, but to get back to Jennifer's body.
Yes.
To get back to Jennifer's body.
Get back to the thing we're supposed to be talking about right now. Whoops. When you first watched
Jennifer's body, did you have the context? Like, what did you think it was going to be? And then after you watched it, what was your like initial impression? Besides, like, this is the best movie I've ever seen. Like, give me do you remember what your initial thoughts of it were?
I remember I knew going in that people kind of said it was like a guilty pleasure movie where they're like, is it the best movie ever? No. Is it a really fun movie that has great things in it? Yes. And I was like, okay. And so I do that and I watch it and I'm like, I don't really care that this is kind of goofy and bad at some points. Like,
yeah,
it's fun. I like it. I'm having fun with it. Like, and the more I watch it, the more I'm like, so the thing that happened with Jennifer's Body is they were making it during the writer's strike in 2008. So Diablo Cody, who had previously won, she won Best Original Screenplay for Juno in 2007.
Slay.
So we can thank her for our lives, if we're honest, because Juno and Jennifer's Body are two of the movies that have fully impacted me as a person. Like, they were part of like Breck's starter pack. When I went to college, people would be like, what are your favorite movies? And I'm like, Jennifer's Body, Juno, like 500 Days of Summer, Perks of Being a Wallflower. Like, that is all core Breck.
Yeah.
But
taste.
Thank you. It's curated. But so she wrote that script and then it couldn't be doctored whatsoever. Like, there were no fixes that could be made. That was just the script that they had when she went on strike. That was all they had. So to me, there was like a lot of people tried to be like, well, it needed a couple more passes. And I'm like, you probably could have just done one more pass over the script and it would have been like a truly, really good movie. But I still think it's a good movie. I think it does it a disservice to pretend like Jennifer's Body is a bad movie.
I agree. I think furthermore, bitches out here saying shit like furthermore. First of all, I did not know the context for that about it was during the writer's strike. Because I was busy being 12.
Yeah. I was busy like playing Club Penguin or something.
Yeah, I was probably playing Club Penguin too, honestly. I played with Barbies till I was 13 because I was an only child. And so I didn't have anyone. And I was also a loser and didn't have anyone to play with. So yeah, it was often independent play,
yes.
Which Barbies was, girl, I was Barbies.
Yeah.
Me and Barbies were like, I mean, I had brats too, but like, because I inherited like a ton of my half sister's Barbies because she was like 15 when I was born. So it was like, she had no use for them.
Yeah.
That's crazy to think is by the time I stopped playing Barbies, I was only 2 years younger than my sister was when I was born. That's a weird thing to think because then I was her Barbie.
Yeah.
Get that with the baby. But I don't think the script is bad at all. Like, I think like you said, I think maybe one more pass could have really just taken it from like a good fun script to like great, like something that people would talk about in like writers' rooms, because the core idea is so solid and so strong. And I think to the queer aspect of, which, I mean, if you're not reading this through a queer lens, don't watch this movie.
Like, don't bother.
Don't even bother.
It was also probably the first movie I ever watched where girls kissed. if we're on. Like, I think probably. Like, I might have seen it before. Like, I definitely remember, like, sneaking in the room when my mom was probably watching Grey's Anatomy. And I was like, so why are these two women kissing? And she was like, go to your room.
Can I tell you a story?
Yeah.
Okay. The first time I ever saw two women kissing was when I was probably about 4. And the reason is, so when I was a kid, I voraciously watched movies, and at the time it was VHS tapes, and so I eventually figured out I was able to play them and rewind them and stuff by pressing the buttons, but I was not really aware of how to get it from the channel of the VCR to back to the TV or vice versa.
Yeah.
So one day I was watching, I don't know, probably Aladdin or something. And the movie ended, and I was just like, I was in my parents' bedroom and they were in the living room. And I was just sitting in my parents' bedroom because I think it was the evening, and they were just like, okay, she wants to watch Aladdin for the 11th time. Just let her go.
They're like, we're going to watch the news. Leave it be.
Exactly. And I do remember it was night. And so I was just letting the credits roll because I was just sitting there. I was probably tired. And then the VHS ended. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, it switched back over to the TV channel. And it was on HBO. And I don't know what was playing, but it was softcore porn. Like, it was like, I mean, it's HBO. So, like, you know, HBO in the 90s. Think just whatever shows were on, and I was immediately like, I'm not supposed to be looking at this.
There is nothing funnier than that feeling as a kid where you're like, I don't think I was supposed to see that.
And it's like, and so I just remember going, Daddy, hello, please come help me.
I think there's something on the TV I'm not supposed to look at.
There's lesbians on the TV and I'm 4.
What's that TikTok? Not the TikTok. The Vine. Ugh. R.I.P. And it's of the teenage girl, and she looks and she finds her sister, and the sister. And the sister.
Please don't tell Mom.
Please don't tell Mom. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh, that's a recovered memory.
I used to, I'm so sorry. We don't even need to include this in the podcast. I'm just telling you this.
Yeah.
I used to watch Logo all the time. You remember Logo? The gay network?
No.
That's what RuPaul used to air on.
No, I didn't know that.
So Logo was like the LGBT network. And I mean, let's call it what it is. It was the gay man network because lesbians and trans people and bisexuals don't deserve representation.
No, I would be.
So that was when that RuPaul originally aired on Logo, and for a long time, I think up until about season 8 when it started going to VH1. And like that was how you watched RuPaul's Drag Race. So if you wanted to watch RuPaul's Drag Race, you had to sit through the like penis enlargement pill ads and stuff like that, which like, but I remember that like my first like exposure to like queer media was through Logo because they would play they had like a block of like music videos like MTV would, but they didn't play scary commercials like MTV would. So I would watch the music videos because when I was a kid, I slept with the TV on all the time because I was afraid of the dark. And so I would play the music videos because they were not like TV. They were just like, they weren't a narrative. They were just music videos. And so, and then I would wake up and there would be like, there was a show called Queer as Folk that would be on.
The ancient texts.
The ancient texts of Queer Eye.
Queer Eye. L Word, probably.
The L Word, yes. Was that even the time of the L Word? It doesn't matter. But anyway, that doesn't even need to be included in the podcast. It was just, anyway, Logo. But there were a couple of times that my dad would come in and I would be asleep and there would be just gay sex on the TV because and he was like, what the fuck are you watching? And I was like,
you're like asleep.
And I'm just like, I'm 12. Like, I'm asleep.
You're like, huh? What? And he's like, don't worry about it.
Yeah. And then eventually it was like, you need to stop watching TV when you sleep. Partially because don't sleep with the TV on while you're, because that's bad for your psyche.
Yeah,
but
technically it's like bad for you.
Yeah.
There's like a study that was done where it's like if there's a TV in your room, it automatically worsens your sleep by 25% or something.
Get the fuck out of here. Like, I'm not gonna have a TV in my room. What am I supposed to do when I'm sick? lay there,
Yeah.
languish like a Victorian child.
Oh.
Papa, help me.
Help me, I have cholera. No, yeah, I definitely think that Jennifer's Body was probably the first like movie that I sat down and watched, and there were gay people in it.
Gay people.
Yeah, I mean that has to be it, because I'm trying to think. I wish I'd known about Letterboxd when I was like 13 and I could actually track every movie I've ever watched.
Me.
But, well, I mean, not like the first gay people, probably the first gay women, because I definitely watched Perks of Being a Wallflower before that.
Yeah.
And that obviously has gay men in it. And the same actor, what's his bucket? His last name is also Simmons.
J.K. Simmons?
I think they're related.
Johnny Simmons.
Johnny Simmons, yes, who is in
Young
Perks
Neil?
of Being Young Neil, who is in Perks of Being a Wallflower, Scott Pilgrim, and Jennifer's Body, which means he's king of my life.
If I'm going to be referring to the character of Chip during Jennifer's Body, I'm going to be calling him Young Neil, because that's all he is to me.
Yeah, like he has so many funny throwaway lines too. Like every time I watch it, I forget how funny he is, because Needy and Jennifer are so quippy that he'll just have this very quiet little him and Needy are talking when Needy's getting dressed up, and he's making all the comments about how her jeans are too low. He's like, I can see your womb. So makes me laugh. And then right after, they're talking about how Needy's like, girls like her don't date drummers. And he's like, thanks. And she's like, well, she'd probably make an exception if the drummer was also the lead singer. And he's like, oh, like Phil Collins. And she's like, who's that? And he's like, he's only like Seminole. It's whatever.
Fine.
Like, he is so funny.
He's the only male character I can stand in this, except for J.K. Simmons, because he's amazing.
Except for J.K. Simmons and the emo kid, Colin.
Which, while I was watching this today, I was like, let me just IMDb these hoes real quick. He has a mustache now, and
he looks handsome.
I was like, that motherfucker looking handsome.
Handsome. Apparently, he is in Smile, that movie that came out
I saw that
last year. What year is it?
Yeah, something like
I don't know.
I think it was either 2022 or 2023. But he's been booked and busy, so I was happy for him.
Yeah, apparently, like I was like, people were like, "Oh, like Smile," and I was like too scared to watch the movie because the trailer scared me, which like hasn't happened to me in years. Like I am so good about that for the most part, and then I was like, I don't. It's so spooky.
Yeah,
so I read it, and then I looked at the cast list on Wikipedia for it, and I was like, that man sounds familiar. And I was like, oh my god. It's Colin from Jennifer's Body. I'm like, I didn't recognize you without the eyebrow piercing.
I know.
Hey, King. I love him in this movie.
He's great.
I remember I've watched this so many times. I've watched it at least twice with the extended cut. I think I put on the extended cut when I watched it this time, I believe.
Does it have that scene with Jonas's dad?
Yes.
Okay, because I didn't watch that I just watched the theatrical cut, and I was like randomly just like looking through different things about Jennifer's Body, and they were like, oh, because apparently there's a meme where it's like Patrick from SpongeBob says, what's the line?
It's just like, those will be your balls, where he's like screaming about how he's gonna kill the animal. Because I forgot about that until today, because I was watching that scene and I was like, oh my god, I forgot Patrick is in this.
Yeah,
because literally everybody is in that movie.
Dude, it's crazy.
Well, and you have to think, I mean, a little bit of it is Diablo Cody's like production posse, because you have, I don't remember her name, but in Juno, she's the girl who's protesting outside the abortion clinic, and then she shows back up in this movie to be
homophobic and hilarious.
Yeah, but she's like, you're totally lesbian. I'm like, best insult I've ever heard in my life. She's like, it's true. It's on the Wikipedia.
That her line reads are, oh my god,
the line reads in this movie across the board, some of the most iconic. Like I hesitate to say that Karen Kusama knew she was making a cult classic, but she knew. She knew.
She had to know.
She had to know, because they already knew, her and Diablo Cody already knew this movie was not going to be marketed the way they wanted it marketed.
Exactly.
Because, a little context. Welcome.
Yeah, I was about to say, let's talk about that, because I think that's really important, especially in the context of it being a female film.
Yes.
With having a female screenwriter, a female director, and being very female centric.
It's definitely, I think it's being reclaimed by women, because when it was first being made, they were essentially like, no one's going to come see this movie if we don't market to men that Jennfer is hot, that Megan Fox is hot in it.
Yeah.
Because it's a rated R movie, which is already lowering, like it's already cutting down on the money you're going to make from this.
Yeah.
I have no idea if it's ever made back its budget.
If it broke even?
Yeah. I don't even know if it broke even. It might have, but...
Do you want to keep talking and I'll look it up?
I will. But essentially the marketing department of that movie was like, we have to make this as much about her being hot as possible, which is really upsetting to me because it's almost like this meta narrative of she's still being, like Jennfer is still being sexualized in death. Like the thing that strikes me, like that makes me even sadder every single time I watch this movie is when she's telling her story to Needy and she's flashing back and you see her slowly starting to realize that she's like, I should not be in this van. Something very bad is about to happen to me.
Yeah.
And so many women are so familiar with that look on her face of like, I shouldn't be here. I need to figure out how to get out of here. Like, it's like, and then when they're about to stab her and he pulls down, he's like, what's your name, sweetheart? She's like, my name is Jennfer. And I'm like,
it's like the last moment where she's trying to be a human to them.
Yes.
Where she's trying to like be like, I'm a person.
She's
I'm not.
Like, my name is Jennfer. Like, and the movie being called Jennifer's Body, it's actually named after a whole song. They play, I forget the name of the whole song they play at the end of the movie. I think it's called Violet. It's called Violet. Nailed it. I've listened to that soundtrack 20,000 times. It's called Violet by Hole, but there's another song on that album called Jennifer's Body, and that's what this movie is named after.
Separately, I wanted to talk about this soundtrack for this film is bangers on bangers on bangers.
Bangers on bangers on bangers on bangers. But
man, you clocked that.
Is it?
Yeah, good job.
I'm a genius. Spencer calls me human Shazam. But
you really are. By the way, to answer your previous question, it did make back its money.
Oh.
The budget was $16 million, which feels so low. That feels crazy
that feels
low.
really low.
And the box office was $31.6 million.
Okay.
So it did make back its money.
It barely made back its money.
Oh, by a hair.
Yeah. And I don't know how much of that even happened at the time.
I was about to say, I was like, how much of that is like re-releases and
because it's definitely gotten like a cult classic, like re-release, like following. I haven't seen it be shown in a theater since 2018, which was what 6 years ago.
Yeah,
sorry for that dead air. But yeah, so it's just this meta narrative of like women reclaiming their death being told as a story. And then it's so like these layers of that, and the marketing department being like, well, it's about a hot woman, so that's what we're going to market it as. Like there's something so depressing about that.
Yeah.
To me, and so disheartening. And we've come a long way, obviously, because this movie has come forward and come into its own as a cult classic and a feminist cult classic and a gay cult classic and all of these things. But it's still very disheartening that at the time, like, I think we kind of forget, like, I think a lot of people can kind of be like, well, past the year 2000, we have all been so woke and everything has been so great. And it's like, incorrect.
Racism solved.
Homophobia solved. Like, what's transphobia? Never heard of it. Doesn't exist. Like, you know, like.
Yeah, it's not like women and gay people and black people and trans people are still literally out in the streets protesting for literal human rights.
Just like any right. I would love any civil right
just
whatsoever.
Like, just a crumb of civil rights, cool. Please.
But it's very disheartening to me. It's very interesting, I think, too. Which is why I think so many women have like connected with it, especially I think survivors of sexual assault, sexual harassment, things like that, find so much strength in this movie because it's a woman who's been taken advantage of, who's been harmed, who's literally been murdered to further a group of men's careers, and then she comes back. And even when she can't avenge herself, her friend takes up the mantle. Like, Promising Young Woman wishes it was this movie.
I was thinking the exact same thing today.
Our mind.
Two things I want to to piggyback off of what you were saying.
Thank you for joining this classroom discussion.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like, this film class discussion we're having. One, and I held up two. That's where I'm at today. One, I finally, at my big age of 28, and this probably being the fourth or fifth time I've watched this movie, finally went, oh, Jennifer's body, it's her literal actual physical body, and also it's her corpse.
Yeah.
My big age of 28 finally realized that.
It's hard because you forget that she literally had to be murdered and come back. And I also found myself wondering, I'm like, so she's possessed by a demon, or she just become a demon and she's still herself? Because clearly she remembers everything.
Yeah, she has all of her memories and everything, and she still basically acts the same. You know, besides the murdering boys thing.
Besides being a little bitchier.
Yeah, besides being a little bitchier and a little bit more self-serving.
Like, she's so mean to Needy in that first scene when she's like, hey, like when she shows back up and he's like, I was scrubbing your throw up off the floor. She's like, you need a mani bad. You should find a Chinese chick to buff your situation. And you're like,
it's so awful. And like, and we don't get to see that much of Jennfer prior to her demonic possession.
Yes.
But I do feel like Jennfer is a very misunderstood, and like Needy does bring it up when she says that Jennfer is insecure later in the movie. With God, Needy, that's a joke.
How could I be insecure? I was the snowflake queen. Yeah, 2 years ago when you were still socially relevant.
I'm still socially relevant.
And you didn't need laxatives to stay skinny.
And then she says the most iconic line.
I am going to eat your soul and shit it out, Les Nikki! She's so gay that she has Les in her last name. Man, the fact that they're just so mean to each other. Like, I think
they're mean to each other.
They're so mean to each other.
But if you think about, because I started high school in the year of 2010. Mm-hmm. So let's live in the world where this is supposed to be about 2008, 2009, even if it's maybe a couple years before. Mm-hmm. That's how people are.
Yeah.
Or at least at the time, that is how they were, where it was like, you said really awful shit to your friends, your best friends. And I just think about that scene where, I mean, like, it's the scene where she's picking her up. So they're about to go to the bar to go see Low Shoulder, which is an awful band name, and I love it.
Literally, it's the stupidest. It is so perfectly like Panic at the Disco Strokes. Like,
yes, I was like, this is like, I was thinking, because I used to, when I was about this age, I used to be obsessed with Boys Like Girls, the band Boys Like Girls. I literally saw them in concert because that's how obsessed I was. And I was like, this is like a worse version of that, which is like they're so that little thing, that little speech that he gives to his bandmate before they're about to kill Jennfer, and he's like, do you want to be, and he's like, the only way to get famous is if you're on some stupid indie soundtrack, which is so like so, and then he's talking to us and he's like, do you want to be like those cool guys from Maroon 5? It's like, that Maroon 5,
that is the most dated part of this whole movie. There are so many things in this movie that are dated, but they feel relevant because they're still like, they're so with it. But Maroon 5 has become such a parody of itself that you're like, the fuck are you talking about? Maroon 5.
Maroon 5.
Remember when Maroon 5 was good? Remember songs about Jane? The good old days. Anyways, back to what you were saying.
No, genuinely though. And it's like Jennfer has this thing of like, I think that anyone who's ever been a teenager can relate to, whereas like you feel so awful in your own skin that you immediately, in order to take the focus off of yourself, she immediately comes in and starts like antagonizing the people there.
Yes.
Like, and not in any real like, smells like Thai food in here. Have you been fucking? It's like, it's not like an insult. Well, it is an insult.
It is an insult.
But it's not like she's saying you're stupid, dumb, and ugly, and I hate you. It's like she's intentionally like making it uncomfortable.
And making you feel embarrassed.
So she doesn't have to feel embarrassed, even though that's not how that works.
No, and it's totally part of, it's part of how like, it's Jennifer's compet of like, I'm mad that you have a boyfriend, so I'm going to make fun of him and make you feel stupid about it. Mm-hmm. But also, I was listening to the director's commentary that Karen Kusama did. Mm-hmm. And she was like, me and Diablo Cody felt very strongly about the fact that most teenage girls have a friend that's like so mean to you and is like, whatever, I tell it like it is. Like, I'm an honest person. Like, I'm brutally honest. And if you don't have that friend, you are that friend.
Yeah.
And I was that friend for a while, and then you stop being like that because you realize it's not how you help people. Help people. It's never about help. It's about just getting away with the things that you say. But there's literally, Jennfer, when they were talking on the phone, she's like, you know me, I tell it like it is. Like, she was like, that was so important to us because every teenage girl has that friend.
Yes.
That is mean to you and is brutally honest because she can't handle the fact that about anything that is going on within her that she doesn't want to deal with.
Yeah.
Because it's also really funny because clearly neither of them have fathers in the picture.
I think helps this movie in a lot of ways because it's so easy for people to cry daddy issues when there's like if you don't want to have characters like Jennfer Check and Amy Dunn, then don't ask for complex female characters.
Yeah.
And then don't make fun of them when you do.
Yeah.
Because I think it's so reductive to, because, okay, what is this movie about? It's about a girl who gets possessed by a demon and then she eats boys to sustain her lifeblood.
Yes.
That is literally what the movie is about. But what is the movie about?
It's about female friendship. It's about being a teenage girl. And it's about how being a teenage girl literally feels like you're being possessed by a demon that makes you crazy and evil.
Exactly. And I think this movie, to me, says so much by saying so little, by like not it like confronts it, but it never points a finger at it. It gets right up to the line and then is like, you make your own interpretation about it. Again, we're not going to handhold you because this movie is not literally endorsing being possessed by a demon and eating boys, even though I think that's all kind of, every teenage girl's had a fantasy about like disemboweling some boy that's hurt them.
Yes.
Because even if it's not like a romantic thing, because boys are just awful.
They're stupid.
As girls are awful too. We're all...
Yeah. Well, and I think that's almost the funny part of this movie is people are like, it's a girl power movie about how much boys suck. It's like the boys in the movie, there's one group of men, not even boys, because all the teenage boys are perfectly fine.
Yeah, they're just teenage boys.
Normal dudes.
The worst you could call them is dumb. Or like unaware.
Like the poor football player that she eats is like, you're like, bless his little heart. He's dumb. Like,
he seems like a decent kid.
The poor Amit from India who's just like, what is happening? Is this what America's like? And then
he doesn't even get any lines.
Bless his little heart. But like the men in this movie are so evil.
Yeah.
In every way. Like it's almost there's maybe a couple scenes with a dad and a teacher where they're fine.
Yeah.
But then you have the most evil indie rock band of all time. It's just very interesting to me. I think you could probably try and read into the text of like, this movie is dissecting how teenage girls become women and how boys become men. I don't know how, but it could. If I'd thought about that before just now. I was working through that thought just now as I was talking it.
Well, and I think that's what's good about the movie is because I think there's so many interpretations. I think you can walk away with so much depending on who you are and depending on your life experience because it has a lot of very general universal experiences. Like everybody knows Jennfer. Everybody knows Needy. Everybody knows like
Chip and Colin, and
they're all these very common archetypes. They're common archetypes because everyone knows someone who's like that. Everyone and in high school specifically. And I honestly think besides being funny, besides whatever, I think my favorite line in this movie is, no, not like high school evil. She's actually evil. And I think because to me, that's just like the microcosm of this, of like how you can take like kind of like almost like a petulant child, kind of whininess where it's like the worst thing about them is that they're whiny and they're a little bit bitchy. How you can, if you want to read it like this, of like, she experiences trauma. She's literally killed.
Literally killed.
And she becomes this completely different person. Even Needy is like, who are you?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know this person. Like, yeah, Jennfer's, pokes fun at you and maybe isn't always the nicest and is maybe a little bit judgmental, but she's not awful.
No.
After she experiences her trauma, she's awful. And if you read it in the way of like, she was assaulted that night and not literally killed and possessed by a devil, possessed by a demon, is that she's working through her trauma and having to experience it, having to, like you said, move from girlhood to womanhood and like confront that.
And she's not a perfect victim, which is another thing that people struggle with a lot, is a victim of sexual assault or a victim of a violent crime, or even just like a victim of any crime. Like if you don't behave perfectly the way people expect you to behave, you're shunned. Like that's still something people struggle with now, where I think we're a lot better as a society now about understanding that people grieve in different ways. But like back in the 80s, like if a mom, you know, her kid dies and she isn't behaving the way people think she should be behaving, it's like, well, she did something. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
are you talking about Darlie Routier?
No.
Oh.
I was just talking in general about how people are expected to perform grief. But go ahead.
No, I'm not going to get into that because that is a long story.
We got time. Well, this is a 4-hour episode.
This is going to be a 6.5 hour episode.
This is actually a 2-parter. So,
because we are the Yap mayors of Yapville, and we could yap about anything and everything.
We haven't even talked about our second movie.
I know, and I'm going to try to wrap this up here really quickly. To keep going with what you were saying about perfect victims, and you know that line of "to be a woman is to perform." That's what this movie is about. Is like, to be a woman is to perform. And because, I mean, Jennfer is like, she's the perfect girl.
Yes.
She is beautiful. She's fit. She's
archetypal,
a cheerleader.
gorgeous high school girl.
Exactly. She's the babe. You know, everyone wants to be her or fuck her or kill her. You know, no one has lukewarm feelings about Jennfer.
No, everyone wants to possess Jennfer.
In some way. And then she is literally possessed, and yet she has to keep up the performance of who she is,
and it's taking more and more and more for her to continue being the way she used to be.
Yeah, I mean, that scene that people always include in their TikToks where she puts on the foundation and she looks I mean, haggard is what she looks like. And I think it's so telling too that when her demon possessed self is like empty, she's hungry. She's described as empty, one, which every girl has felt empty, and two, she looks like hot garbage.
Yeah,
I mean, which it's still Megan Fox, so
it's still Megan Fox. She just looks beautiful and ill, but then she's like, it's like I'm one of the normal girls. Like, it's so funny. There's so many just like throwaway lines. Again, sorry, I just get so sidetracked with the fact that they were like, the script is bad, and I'm like, there are so many lines in this movie that make me gut bust laugh still.
Wrong. I was watching again. This is like, again, I haven't seen the movie as many times as you have, but I've seen the movie quite a few times, and I was watching it today, and I was literally going, ha, because it's a funny movie.
It's
guys.
a funny movie. Like when you were talking about the scene where she's like, no, she's not like high school evil. She's evil. The best part of that is when she was like, yeah, I was in the library's occult section. And he's like, our library has an occult section. She's like, yeah, it's really small. Anyways, like it makes me laugh so hard because it reminds me of the occult section in my elementary school library.
Your elementary school. What do the babies have to learn about the occult?
I was in there. I was in that section.
You were in the guts.
It was one little like shelf. It's like the 3 shelves in the little baby, which seemed so big at the time. And I'm sure if I went back.
Did you go to that Wednesday Addams school for your elementary school?
Like genuinely, I think it was just like there were so many books about ghosts. Like I read about ghost ships all the time.
I loved ghost books when I was a kid.
There was a picture book about the Salem witch trials. Obsessed with it. I'm not even joking.
That is very female coded.
It was awesome.
That's amazing.
It was so cool. But every time I think about that, I remember that line. I'm like, man, I was really like checking out so many like little like books about aliens and ghosts and demons and witches, and now I'm like, they're trying to ban so many books for elementary schoolers, and I'm like, I was out there reading a picture book about the Salem witch trials, which I don't think children should have to think about.
Yeah, or I mean
weird children should, because that's why I'm cool now. You're only cool if you were in the elementary school occult section, is what I'm saying. But
yeah, no, I used to scare myself by reading books about like there was this book, I can't remember what it was called, but there was a book that was in my elementary school's library that was like Texas ghost stories, and I would check it out and I would read it and I would scare the daylights out of myself for whatever reason. But
That's how I learned about La Llorona.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe it was the same book that we were reading.
Probably.
Because I
should find it.
I mean, elementary school feels like. I'm assuming you were probably a high level reader.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm like, this is for funsies. I'm like, I'm gonna go home and read like all my paperbacks my mom lets me buy from half price books, but
right.
a lot of horse books. I was either reading books about horses. I was obsessed with Nancy Drew. Period. This is why I am the way I am, isn't it? I was reading Nancy Drew in the occult section for kids.
This tells me so much about you.
I'm like, loved Nancy Drew.
The more lore we're unlocking, I'm like, okay, all the pieces are coming together for me. So let's just separately say our favorite funny line from the movie.
Okay.
And then, like, you say yours first, and then I'll say mine because it's just so iconic. Do you want me to go first?
You go first.
Guys, it's got to be
my tit.
No, your heart.
It's the best line.
My tit.
I mean, there's so many lines in this movie that make me laugh so hard. The one that immediately sprang to mind.
Oh, God, I'm so ready.
Do you buy all your murder weapons at Home Depot? God, you're butch.
I know you're going to say that one. That's so funny.
It's that. It's... Our library has an occult section. Yeah, it's really small. Another throwaway line is when Jennfer's lured Colin to the abandoned house and she takes off his pants and all of the chains and stuff clatter to the ground. She goes, "Nice hardware, Ace." It's just the funniest movie ever. Like, they're going to be showing that in 20 years still as like a classic. So yeah. Another movie that I guess they're still going to be talking about in 20 years is The Hurt Locker. What a great segue that was.
That was a perfect segue. No notes on that.
Thank you. A movie that we are significantly less excited about, I think, but which isn't fair to that movie. It is just about war. It's about the Iraq War.
And it is, hey guys, The Hurt Locker is kind of a heavy movie.
There would be moments, we were watching this together, boys were off working, we were having a really fun night. We're like, okay, we're going to watch The Hurt Locker first because we need our energy for it. And we would try and be cracking jokes, and then we'd sit there in silence for 10 minutes, like, having a bad one. Like,
just, and I would be watching the screen, and then I would look at Breck like, okay, was that the worst thing we've ever seen, or am I okay to tell a joke?
Chat, was that too bad to make a joke? Anybody?
Let's ask the audience. I particularly, also spoilers for The Hurt Locker. Sorry,
which is even older than Jennifer's Body by a year. So who cares?
So, and it's also did it win Best Picture?
It won Best Picture.
It literally won Best Picture. So if you haven't seen it, sorry.
Spencer says it's one of those movies that is hurt a lot by the fact that it won Best Picture.
Yeah.
Like with how people are really mean to Coda.
Yeah, where it's like, I don't know. I think the movie's good.
I think it was a good movie. I don't know enough about other movies that came out in 2008.
I was about to say, I mean, the movies that I know were nominated is The Hurt Locker and Avatar. And I'm like, I don't think Avatar deserved to win. So
Avatar's a good movie, but if we're talking about movies where white people are the problem and the solution, Hurt Locker's probably a better movie, I guess.
Yeah.
The Hurt Locker is definitely, we're both people who grew up during the Forever War.
Yeah.
Like,
my brother was in the Forever War.
In said war.
Yeah.
He was out there with Jeremy Renner.
Yeah.
On the front
He was
lines.
out there with Jennfer. I was supposed to say Jennfer.
Jennfer Renner. I want to know Jennfer. That's his drag queen name,
Jennfer Renner.
Jennfer Renner.
I agree. Jeremy Renner. Let's talk about your drag persona, Jennfer Renner.
Please get off that app. We're not interested.
We're not interested in the app.
Get over to RuPaul's Drag Race right now.
Immediately. Expeditiously. I want to preface this by saying, I don't know what it is about Jeremy Renner. My first real introduction to him was him as Hawkeye, and I think Hawkeye is a fine character in the Marvel films. And then he was in Arrival, which I love that movie.
Arrival's a great
Ride or
movie.
Die. I love that movie. I will fight anyone who's like, oh, I don't know, the movie's
It's a great movie.
Movie's kind of slow. Shut up. Amy Adams is amazing.
Movies can be slow.
Movies can be slow.
Guys, movies can be slow and long, and you should just suck it up already.
Yeah. If there's movies about time or like time travel, I'm locked in. I love movies about time.
Sat.
Yeah. That's why Christopher Nolan, I'm like,
I'm here, boss.
like, I loved Tenet. Like, even the first like watch through, I was like, I like this
Christopher
movie.
Nolan, come on the pod.
Christopher Nolan, come on the pod.
He does all sorts of fun little things.
Yeah.
He moderated a Q&A for The Curse because Benny Safdie called in a favor. Benny Safdie was like, I need a favor. And so Benny Safdie and Nathan Fielder were doing a Q&A for a couple episodes of The Curse. And Chris Nolan was the moderator.
That,
I'm dead serious.
bar none, that's the best thing I've ever heard.
It's so funny. I love knowing Christopher Nolan is down to clown. Did you know he has a brother that's on the run because he's an assassin?
Oh, okay, hold on.
Yeah, one of his brothers co-writes with him, and the other brother is literally like, he's like a wanted hitman, I think.
Okay, period.
There are so many people in Hollywood that have that related to them. Like Woody Harrelson's dad is a hitman, or was a hitman.
What is going on?
Yeah, it's like very famous. His Woody Harrelson's dad may have had something to do with JFK. I'm dead serious. Look it up.
Don't ever tell my mom that, because she will not drop that. They're like, okay, you know how every girl has like a thing that she's obsessed with?
Mm-hmm.
Like mine is Marie Antoinette. Like I'm obsessed with Marie Antoinette. Like so obsessed that I did a project about her in 6th grade, and it's like, that's a little bit weird for like 11-year-old to be obsessed. But also I was obsessed with the Sofia Coppola film too, which is also great.
Of course.
But my mom, she's a JFK assassination girly. That is
Real.
That is who she is. Like and look, I'm right there with her. Some fishy's going on there. Don't know what it is. Some's fishy.
Something's fishy. That's all I'm gonna say.
But Jeremy Renner in Arrival.
We are the mayors of Yapville.
Jeremy Renner in Arrival. I don't know what it is, if it's the way his character's written or if it's the way he's playing it, but man, I just want to deck him the whole time. I'm just like, let Amy Adams do what she needs to do.
And the funny part is, I've read the short story that Arrival is based on too.
Oh, you're a better fan than me.
Way back when. Well, it's because I took a science fiction class.
Yes, you've told
in
me
college.
this. Yes,
and the short story was part of that. And in the short story, he's a lot more bearable.
A lot more bearable. Okay, yeah, because he's pretty punchable in this film.
Yeah.
In Arrival. Not in Hurt Locker. Well, he is kind of punchable.
He's punchable. He's like on and off punchable in the Hurt Locker. Because there'll be moments where I'm like, get into it. The moment that I really was liking him and digging his character the most was when they're defusing the bomb that's like the whole car is a bomb.
Yeah.
And he takes off all the armor and they're like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm gonna die anyways. If this bomb goes off, I'd rather at least be able to move my arms and like move around.
Period. Very real of him.
Very real of him, because if I'm overstimulated by my clothes, it's over.
It's done.
Game over.
If my sock gets like twisted around in my shoe, I'm like, I gotta go back to bed. Genuinely.
Literally. Like,
so imagine like you're having to defuse a bomb and you're in this like giant, essentially like,
and it's
space suit.
120 degrees outside.
It's literally Iraq. It's so hot. It's like,
you
good
can
Lord.
feel how hot that movie is too.
Yes, I was going to say, I was like, something that I think, because you mentioned it while we were watching the movie, which is I'm so glad that they didn't do the Middle Eastern like color grade, which was something that I didn't like clock right away. But once you said it, I was like, oh my God, you're so right. But it still has that effect of like.
Yeah. Oh, turns out if you're a good filmmaker, you can actually replicate the feeling of being super hot, and you don't need to just like slap a yellow filter over Mexico or the South or South America or the Middle East or wherever you're trying to be like, ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, you know, like.
And then, oh my God.
It's such a cheek. Almost like being a good filmmaker makes you make a good movie. That's crazy.
That's so. What a weird concept.
And I don't think like, you know, like Breaking Bad used that filter quite a bit, especially in those later seasons. And I don't think Breaking Bad is a bad show. No. Obviously, can you imagine if I said Breaking Bad was a bad show?
God, we'd never hear the end. Well, we'd never hear the end of it from them.
I would never let myself live it down.
No.
Like if I ever like, that's how you know like my clone has taken over. It's like Breaking Bad is a bad show, and it's like, you're not Breck.
It's like,
but
Breck, blink twice if you're still in there.
But that's what really struck me is I can't say that I was like super drawn in by the story of this movie.
No.
Like there were definitely parts where I'm like, okay, all right. But that's also not my cup of tea. I'm not reaching for a war movie.
No.
Most of the time, it's really got to be like I wanted to watch this for the fact that it was directed by a woman and she won Best Director for it.
Yes.
But the filmmaking aspect of this movie, there's no way you could say this movie looks bad.
No.
This movie looks incredible. The cinematography is beautiful. You can see the sweat on everyone's faces.
Which, like, something that I like, a tenet of film is like show don't tell. Because like if you're gonna just like tell me about it, then just write a book.
Yes.
Because you have a visual medium, show it to me.
Exactly.
No one has to say, OMG, it's so hot, it's 125 degrees, whatever, you know, it's so hot. I can see them sweating. I can see the waves, the heat waves coming off of the concrete. I don't need to be told.
I can see how dry everyone's lips are.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, the scene, the sniper scene. Oh my gosh, I was like, I want a glass of water. Like,
oh yeah,
when they drink that Capri Sun. We've never wanted a Capri Sun.
We were sitting there, we were like, we should get Capri Suns after this.
Let's just get Capri Suns.
That is to me the standout scene of this movie, which I think a lot of people say that about this movie as well.
It's so tense and so good. I mean, we were locked in for that. We were like
locked in.
Besides saying that we wanted Capri Suns, we were locked in.
Because it's so, what is interesting about this movie is I almost feel like it being a little boring is the point. Like I almost feel they're like, it's boring to be at war. You're exhausted from being constantly on edge. You've been fighting for your life and it's boring. You're doing it every single day. And there's no end, like there's an end in sight and you don't even know if you're making it to that end.
You have no clue.
No clue.
Because, I mean, especially, okay, put it in the context of what the film is it starts literally with one of their 3-person team getting blown up by a bomb. And that and I think that's so effective because the rest of the film, you live with that tension of like, okay, so they're going to blow someone up if like, if the characters do something wrong, they will die. There's not like
there's no
it's like especially in I would call it like the climax scene, which is the man with the bomb strapped to him, which is oh my gosh,
nightmare scenario,
literal nightmare scenario. And when a movie is like so tense you can't even watch it, it's like, oh my god, like I got to do something else because like I'm going to like explode with terror. That was this scene for me. Where I was like, I don't even want to watch this because this is, well, one, I mean, the reality of it is very sad, but also, I mean, just the locks and him saying like, I can't get the locks. We don't have enough time, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like, because even this, like this character who seemingly doesn't really have a lot of like respect for his own life, not necessarily that he disrespects life in general, but his own life, he doesn't really care if he lives or dies.
He definitely is chasing the high of
he just like he says at the end, I think there's only one thing I love, to his son.
That's the craziest part of this entire movie is he goes home and he's talking to his infant son and he's like, somebody who's like, by the time you're my age, you only love like one or two things. For me, I think it's just one. And then the next scene is him on the plane going back to Iraq.
It's like, man, you can't even muster up enough love for your literal only son.
It is insane to me. And Spencer and I were talking about this because he was like, I don't know if it is that, but it could be. And I'm like, I definitely think it is.
I mean, like I said before, I think it's kind of whatever you take away from it. Is it that he only loves his son and so he's going back to war to protect him? Which we're not even going to get into that.
We're not going to debate the politics of the Iraq war.
Because you want to talk about yapping?
We don't got time for that.
Guys, we've been yapping about it for the last 25 years.
No time for that.
Absolutely no time for that. So, but, to me, I read it as he can only exist for him. It's not even necessarily that it's like his one love. It's the only thing he knows.
Yeah.
It's all he knows how to do. It's like he knows he's good at diffusing bombs. Diffusing? Yeah.
Disarming.
That was the word I was looking for. He knows he's good at disarming bombs. He doesn't know if he's good at being a father or a husband.
No.
And that's ultimately scarier for him than
100% it is about losing yourself in your career because it's the only thing you think you're good at.
Exactly.
Which is what is so sad to me about Anthony Mackie's character is him at the end being like, what does he say exactly? He's like,
he says something about that if he died, no one would care, only his parents, but they don't count. And then he says, I want a son. I want a son, man. Like saying that he wants like a legacy, like he wants to be remembered, even if not, he doesn't need to be like super like famous or powerful. He just needs to like have someone who like feels his loss.
Absolutely. I think it's very much the duality of, which is so interesting about movies about war in general, is movies about war are almost never about war. And then movies that aren't about war are about war, you know, like in the way that like, or they're about different wars, like how MASH on TV was about the Korean War, but it was really about Vietnam. Yeah. And what was really interesting to me is that James Cameron called this movie This Generation's Platoon. And Platoon, which I haven't seen, which I really want to. Apparently Willem Dafoe is like incredible in it. But apparently it's also starring Charlie Sheen, you know.
Jump scare.
I think it's an Oliver Stone movie. But it is essentially like one of the first war movies where it was straight up like, there is nothing glamorous about this. Yeah. There is nothing fun about this. It doesn't matter what a movie is telling you and making it look cool. It is a terrible, terrible thing to have to go and do this and put your life on the line. And also, you know, you're going to come home and then no one cares about veterans anymore. It's always protect the troops, support our troops until the troops come home and they're missing a leg or they're missing an arm.
Or they have PTSD.
Or they have substance abuse issues or...
Yeah. I mean, talk to literally any veteran who's had to deal with the VA. It's like that's a fate worse than death.
Yes.
Is dealing with coming home and now being a citizen, but being a veteran is like such a specific thing that like you and I will never understand. And like, I think in the context of like a film, because I've seen the argument that all films about war is propaganda, but look, I just work here. I don't know. Yeah. But like I would say that if there is a movie that I've seen that takes place in a war, if there's one that's like, guys, war is really awful and bad and there's no point and it's just human loss for nothing, it's this movie.
Oh yeah.
I think All Quiet on the Western Front is like a very close, I mean, it's All Quiet on the Western Front, like what do you want? But I think there's even a certain like kind of melancholy there, kind of like, you know, like no one in this movie is happy to be there.
No.
Like even Jeremy Renner's character, who's like, this is the only thing he knows.
It's mindless for him. It is a mindless behavior. And it's so interesting to me. Also, it reminds me of Full Metal Jacket a lot too.
Yes.
Where it does remind me of I read something really interesting back when I saw Full Metal Jacket back in September, because Alamo was doing all their Kubrick movies. I hadn't seen hardly any Kubrick movie. I think I'd just seen The Shining.
So you were a little bit less annoying than me in high school.
Yes. So when we saw Full Metal Jacket, it's actually the first movie about the Vietnam War that showed urban warfare instead of jungle warfare, which I thought was really interesting because it was also, it tended to be a lot more violent. It reminded me a lot of that, of just this like violence and violence and violence and violence. And there's just like, it just keeps happening. And it's almost like everyone is helpless to it, but they're still pushing it along, which I think is a really interesting take, especially since now we're calling the Iraq War the Forever War. Yeah. It lasted 20 years. I mean, they pulled out of Afghanistan in 2021. I think I had just graduated college a couple months before. Yeah, I think that was when it happened. So
I mean, it's been around as long as both of us have been conscious.
Yes. So. Like I have no memories of 9/11. So I wouldn't be able to like truly like, this is just how life has always like been in my brain. And I think it's also helped a lot by the fact that it's shot, Catherine Bigelow shot it, the DP shot it in a very like documentary way. I think that really helps the movie a lot, because I think people do argue, and sometimes correctly, that a lot of war movies are propaganda, especially because a lot of movies that are being made with U.S. military like equipment, they have to sign off on it.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
That's why like a lot of Marvel movies that involve the military, like they're getting a lot of money from the military to help make those movies.
Yeah. An unfortunate
Looks
truth.
into the camera. I shan't say anything else. But
but short.
I think, I don't know if she's getting away with it, but I think Catherine Bigelow is shooting this in a way to be in a documentary type style because she almost knows that the subject material is enough.
Yeah.
I think a lot of war movies don't rely on the fact that war is sucky enough. Like you don't really have to add a lot of terrible things to a war for a war to be bad.
Yeah. And I think when we were watching the movie and I was just like, you know, wanting to know more about it and that the screenplay was written by a journalist who was literally with like units of people who were in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and wrote it from that perspective of like boots on the ground, which like everyone's always like, well, that's always what war movies are about. They're not about the war. They're about the soldiers. It's like, and I understand that, but this movie was so like visceral, but not in a way that like, I feel like I'm there. It's like it's holding up the world's worst like mirror almost and saying like, this could be anybody you know. This could be you. I mean, if you're like a man of that age, it literally was my brother. Like it was a lot of our brothers, dads, grandfather, you know, whomever, uncles. And I think that something that I wanted to put into context of like a woman made this. And she was the first woman to win Best Director and it was for this movie. And I think that's really significant because this movie was marketed. I mean, it's marketed to everyone, but I mean, all war movies are kind of marketed to men. There's literally like one female character who has any lines, and it's Evangeline Lilly, who is Jeremy Renner's wife, who is like, hey, are you going to come home? And she's like
in like 2 scenes.
Yeah. And I think she probably has a total of like 4 lines, if she has even that many.
Yeah.
She has a super non-character. She's basically there for just like 2 minutes of the whole movie. And I mean, this is a very like
it's a masculine movie.
It's a very masculine. And that was the thing that I think is so significant is this a masculine story being told by a woman, or is this like an incredibly human story being told by a human? Do you know what I mean? And I really, I like the idea that a woman directed this because women historically, there were a lot of female soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yes.
But historically, women have not really been that involved in war.
No.
Other than to like do nursing duties or support duties or things.
There have not been a lot of female soldiers on the front lines until a lot more recently in our human history.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically, you know, the war machine is full of men. That's what it is, really. Yeah. And something that I think this movie shows that other war movies don't show is that like they're all coworkers. They're not like
absolutely
best buddies and like I have to defend you because you're my best. Because Anthony Mackie does not like Jeremy Renner.
He does not. He liked his friend that got shot because of Jeremy Renner's stupid like cowboy cop routine that he tries to pull that ends up being for nothing. For
literally nothing. And that I think that all of that just showing how mundane all of it is to them. I mean, to like Jeremy Renner kind of representing the model soldier who is a model soldier isn't someone who's fighting for his country. He's someone who can't do anything else.
Yeah.
Who is doing this because civilian life's scarier than
he is trapped by the machine.
Exactly.
He is like those people that get out of prison and immediately recommit a crime because they can't handle being outside of prison anymore. I mean, prison was better for them.
Exactly. I mean, Shawshank. You know what I mean? It's like I always think about Shawshank when I think about soldiers coming home, because it's like you are taking them from the world's craziest environment. I mean, whether it's prison or it's Whether it's the prison industrial complex or it's the military industrial complex. Those are the craziest environments in the world you could be in. And then it's like, okay, now be a normal functional person and don't complain about it.
Yeah, which especially struck me during that scene where he comes home, where Jeremy Renner comes home and he's in the supermarket, and you realize like you're also with him. Like you're also waiting for something to happen. Like you start realizing you're also looking around corners and waiting to hear a gunshot or a bomb go off or something. Like that was kind of really when the movie started to hit for me. Was that. Like I was like, I don't know, like this is okay. Like I don't know how I feel about this. And then I was like, oh, like I understand what I've been set up to feel here of just like I'm up here, and I'm supposed to be down here, and there's no transition period. There's no ability to, like, you almost wonder like what is for a soldier coming home. Like they almost need like a pressurization chamber, like if like how astronauts have to like, or like divers have to come up like 10 meters at a time, or because if they go all the way up they get the bends. Like,
do you think that Catherine Bigelow telling this story, telling a very male-centric story, do you think is different? Do you think she is able to lend a different perspective to it through being a woman, or do you think she's just straight up a really good director and basically any story that she tells is just really good because she's Catherine Bigelow?
I think it probably is that. I don't think it's I don't know if I could be like there's a uniquely feminine perspective on this movie. There's not enough women in this movie that I think you could argue that.
Yeah.
I think there's a different version of this movie that's more about women, but I don't know if that's the point of the movie. Yeah. And I think that's almost better because I kind of I try to rebuke the notion that women are like inherently better at certain things because we're women, because it's this quote from Ursula K. Le Guin where she talks about how she's like, we need to not as women restrict ourselves to being so good at instinctual things and allowing men to be the learners and the growers. We can all do all of these things. Like, yeah. So I think it's just truly because she's such a good director, and also because she has a history of directing movies about men in very masculine spaces, like Point Break. Like, yeah. So
Point Break.
There you go. Point Break.
What do you think the difference is between a woman telling a very male story and a male director telling a very female story? Because I would argue that there are certain stories that, like, having a man interpret it would hurt it. But I think, because now I'm already talking myself out of this, because, like, okay, let's talk about a very feminine movie, Still Magnolias, really quickly, which we talked about on the pod, and I was also on that episode.
Watch that episode.
And there was, when they made the film, I mean, a man wrote the script and a man directed it, like the movie. So, but I mean, ask any woman in the South what one of her favorite movies is, she's probably going to name Still Magnolias as one of them. But it's it's very human, but it's also very like, it's a very feminine story, because I would argue that female friendship, the bonds of friendship for females is not better or like stronger, different for women. It's different because we have specific experiences. We have specific experiences that there's understandings between women that just are unspoken, that we don't have to explain. We just know.
Yeah, absolutely.
That, and I'm not saying that men don't have that, because I think they do.
I think they do.
I think there's but a woman taking like a man's story, I don't like see that to me. Like, I don't see that as I agree. Because like, if I was going to tell a story about male friendship, I would be telling it through the lens of what I know, which is like the male friends I have, my husband who has male friends. Yeah. And then my female friendships, because I have majority female friendships. Right. So it's like, do you think that in a scenario like that, it hurts the narrative in a way that maybe like a male telling a certain story would hurt the narrative? Or is this too complicated of a question and we should just move on?
I don't know that it's too complicated of a question. I think it just takes a very specific director, because there are also a lot of female-centric movies where I'm like, a man directed this? And I wouldn't have known that.
Yeah.
It's not treated like there's no fetishization. There's no just cruelty or unkindness. Mm-hmm. And then there's movies directed by women about the female experience where I'm like, this was not... Like this was mean. This was cruel. This was not necessary. Like, yeah. I think it just takes being a successful filmmaker being a successful filmmaker to me is being a person that understands people. And I think Catherine Bigelow succeeds here because she's a person who understands people before she's a woman directing a movie about men.
Yeah. Very well said.
Thank you.
So now...
Finally, welcome.
Moving into our B segment, because we've been talking so long, I only have 5 questions for trivia for you. And
Slay.
Specifically trivia surrounding women in film. Mm-hmm. And we're not specifically talking about female women acting in film, because that's...
We'd be here all day.
I'm talking about specifically women creating film,
behind the
directors,
scenes.
Writers, things
Slay.
like that. So... There's only 5 questions. Some of them, I'm not expecting you to get them. Mm-hmm. These are more just fun facts that I liked.
Yay.
Okay. The first question. Mm-hmm. How many women have been nominated for the Academy Award for Best Director?
5.
It is more than that. I'll give you one more guess.
8.
It's 8. It's 8.
I'm psychic.
8 women have been nominated for Best Director.
Okay.
So... Mm-hmm. Follow-up question to that. In what year was the first woman nominated for Best Director?
It's the early 90s.
Nope.
No?
Sooner than that.
Sooner?
Yeah. Like it was longer ago in time than that.
Okay. What year exactly? Can I say a decade?
You can say a decade.
70s.
Yeah. It was 1977.
Okay.
It was, I had the freaking thing pulled up. It was in 1977. It was for a film that was it was an Italian film. It was released in 1975. So I think probably was like American release in 1976. But so it was 1977, which honestly surprised me. Wow. I thought it was going to be the 90s.
I know, because I thought it was Jane Campion in like the early 90s.
She was the next one though. So
nailed it.
Not that much progress.
Yay!
Yeah, that movie must have been really good though. Who was the first woman to win the Golden Globe for Best Director? And I will give you a hint. This was in the 1980s. Do you want one more hint?
Yes.
This is not a person who's known for directing. This is a person who's known for singing. Mm-hmm.
Known for singing? Won a Golden Globe for Best Director. Oh my God. Is it... Okay, who's singing in the 80s? It's not Madonna. It's not Whitney.
No.
Known for singing.
She's known for acting, singing. I don't want to give too much away because you'll get it instantly if I...
I don't think it's Tina Turner.
No. You're thinking a little too contemporary.
Okay. 80s. Known for acting. Golden Globe.
I will give you one more. Mm-hmm. This might give it away. Mm-hmm. She's very famous for doing musicals.
Is it Julie Andrews?
No.
Is it Joan Crawford? I don't know. Who is it?
It's Barbara Streisand for Yentl in 1983. Oh my God,
I'm dumb.
You're not dumb. I was very surprised by this because, well, first of all, 1983 feels very early for a woman to be winning Best Director for anything.
That's the Barbara Streisand effect right there.
But that is the Barbara Streisand effect in motion, ladies and gentlemen.
You were like, I'm going to give it away. And I'm like, my brain don't work so good.
I, as someone who is very, very into musical theater, to me, Barbara Streisand is like... Also, I went through a period of being really into Barbara Streisand. So like...
Understandable.
You know. I had a moment. Okay. This one, you're not going to know, but I'll ask you anyway. First narrative film directed by a woman. It's not English. Okay, what year do you think it came out? Just give me a guess of what you think the year was.
1929.
No, it was much sooner or much earlier than that.
1911.
It was 1896, and the film was Oh, you took French. Here, read that for me.
La fée à choux.
There you go.
Cabbages. The fairy of the cabbages.
Isn't that so cute?
Choux, yeah, that's a common pet name in France.
Oh, is it?
Parents call their kids ma petite chou, mon petit chou.
Oh.
Chou chou.
Does it mean fairy?
No, fairy is la fée. Chou means cabbage.
Come here, my little cabbage.
Come here, my little cabbage. Cabbage Patch dolls.
My how often do we call little kids pumpkin?
Yeah, exactly.
They would probably think that was just as weird. And actually, so the woman to direct it was Alice Guy. Well, at the time she was known as Alice Guy, but it's Alice Guy Blach, probably. And it was actually considered like the first narrative on film. So like not only was it the first woman to direct a narrative film, it was probably the first narrative ever. It's since been lost. It's a lost film, but
She ate that.
she ate
So
that.
you're telling me women have always been involved behind the camera?
Exactly. Not to mention, I mean, film editing is like dominated
Oh yeah.
by women.
Reminds me of that. Have you seen Hail Caesar by the Coens?
I haven't watched the whole thing. I was in the room the same time Shane watched it.
No, there's a really great scene in it where Frances McDormand is in one scene and she's the editor of the movie.
I've seen this
within
scene.
the movie, and she almost strangles herself with the film roll.
Yes.
I love it. I love that scene so much. Anyways,
I like the idea that men will give women a bunch of just straight up insane nonsensical garbage, and women will make sense of it. I do like that idea.
precisely. Thelma
okay.
Schumacher Tangs.
A queen.
That's my queen right there.
Give her flowers, if nothing else.
And she has a lot of them.
Oh yeah.
That's my favorite. I love telling people that she has more Oscars than Marty. Which is also a travesty because he should have like 20 more, but so it goes.
Yeah. Last question though. You may know this, you might not. What year was the first woman nominated for Best Cinematography, the Academy Award? It was recent. Pretty recent.
Like 2010's recent?
Definitely that recent.
Let's say 2018.
It was 2018.
I'm
Good
so smart.
job. It was Rachel Morrison for Mudbound.
Wow.
it
Movie
was
I do not really remember.
Movie I've never even seen. I'll be real.
Me either. There were different things going on that year.
There was, stuff was really going on for you, wasn't it? There wasn't that much going on for me. I just didn't really care to see the film.
I saw Shape of Water and Lady Bird that year. That's what I saw.
Okay, very good films. There were a lot of weird movies that year that I was like, maybe cinema's good, guys.
Maybe.
But it is kind of crazy that now historically, I don't think women typically are directors of photography, but hey,
Good for her.
I'm gonna say Mudbound's a good looking film. You know what I mean? Haven't seen
believe
it, but every time I saw the trailers, I was like, that looks good.
Good work,
That looks
everybody.
solid.
Shout out to every single woman behind the camera.
Shout out to every single woman behind the camera.
Shout out to us.
Shout out. Go us.
Go us.
Let's, before we move on to our recommendations, I want to do one last thing. I want to, if you can think of one, name another movie by a female director that you love that would have been a good contender for us to speak about.
Dead air. Dead air. Breck is thinking about movies.
You know what's so funny? I asked you this question. I don't have an answer.
I mean, it would...
Actually, I do have an answer.
Either Lady Bird or Little Women.
You bitch. Thank you for stealing Little Women.
You can take it. You say, I'll say Lady.
No.
I'll say Lady Bird. You say Little Women.
I'll say Little Women, but I'll also say Nomadland for Chloe Zhao, who won Best Director for Nomadland. It is a quiet film, and my Letterboxd review, I think, perfectly encompasses how I feel about the movie, which is this movie will have you yearning for places you've never been.
Yeah.
It'll make you miss places you've never been.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that the way that Chloe Zhao pulls that off is just crazy and so good. And Frances McDormand is like, she's like
legend.
I don't know if she's the Meryl Streep of our generation, but she's the Meryl Streep of someone's generation.
Yeah.
Like,
her and Meryl came up around the same time, more or less. She's only like 10. Well, I don't even know. I'm just talking out of my butt. I don't know about anything.
Recommendations. Do we want to do recommendations? Recommendations.
Oh my God, you're a genius. You're so smart.
That's what they should call the segment. Even if you're not here, they should
Even
just
if
call
I'm
it.
not here, Spencer should say everything that I'm showing him that is currently a recommendation is a recommendation. My recommendation currently is that I have been watching The Walking Dead.
Period.
Me recommending a show that came out almost 15 years ago. And I'm like, you know what, guys, have you heard about smash AMC hit The Walking Dead? Have you guys heard about this? I've just really been having fun with it. It's been so long since I've had a show that I wanted to binge. Mm-hmm. And then here I am, like, over a day binging like 6 episodes. Hasn't happened to me in a long time. It's called being unemployed. Look it up.
Wow.
I've been really having fun with it. Like,
good.
It's been a long time since I've had a show where I'm like, I am having fun. Like, which it's also not a fun show because I'll also be screaming out loud. I'm like, why would you do that? You are so stupid. I hate you. Stop doing that. But like, it's been a couple years since I've had a show where I'm like, I need to sit down and watch 20 episodes of this right now. So I've really been having fun with that.
Good.
So what are your current recommendations?
I'm going to recommend 2 things quickly. One, Anne with an E. I'm a little late to the game of watching it. So good.
My mom loves that show.
It's like a warm blanket. And I just started the first episode, season 1, episode 1 the other day. And I was like, man, that TV show looks so good, guys. And it's so sweet. And it's like, oh, it's so good. The other one is Yellow Jackets. I haven't actually finished it because
the best show ever.
Because I suck.
It's not, but
also Karen Kurosama, is that her name?
Karen Kusama.
She directed a couple episodes of Yellow Jackets.
She directed the first 2.
That show is buck wild and so good. And
if you ever watched Jennfer's Body and enjoyed any of it, Yellow Jackets will be 100% up your alley.
Exactly.
Lesbians in situations.
Take those lesbians, put them in a situation.
There's even a gay man there.
I mean, hey.
There's gay on gay crime in that show. It's awesome. Karen Kusama, she directed the first 2 episodes. She also executive produces the whole thing. So
I mean, and if you don't get it, you don't get it, and I can't make you get it. But Yellow Jackets is something that I love watching movies and TV shows. It's easy. Like, it's easy to make me like something. But when I watched Yellow Jackets, I was like, this is special.
Oh, yeah.
This is different. And it's like not like anything else on TV, in my opinion. And the casting, oh my God,
it's so good.
Like, not only like, oh, the younger versions of the like full adult actresses, like, just look and they really are so locked in on these characters, but just generally the casting. Like, Melanie Linsky, they could never make me hate you. If she has one fan, it's me. If she has no fans, I'm dead.
Please come on the pod.
Please,
we will do anything. We'll kick them back off and we'll do anything for you.
You want to talk about a gay icon is Melanie Linsky.
Melanie Linsky, who has been in the trenches with us.
She is
apparently not gay, but her and Natasha Lyonne, as far as I'm concerned, are honorary gay women.
Exactly. But I'm a cheerleader. That movie she
Heavenly
was in with
Creatures.
Yes. Thank you for reading my mind.
You're welcome.
Yellow Jack. I mean, this woman is like, and then she's in stuff like The Last of Us, and she just slays casually in that too.
Awesome. Love her.
And when I realized that she was from New Zealand, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I would have
so good at an American accent.
Like, what? Melanie Linsky, they could never make me hate you.
No.
Watch Yellow Jackets, watch Anne with an E, watch The Walking Dead.
Watch The Walking Dead if you feel like you need a show that's long and meaty.
Okay, the only question I'm going to ask, what season does it get good?
The first season is so short. It's only like 6 episodes.
Okay, I can digest that.
I feel like if you really wanted to be like, Spencer says, I'm about 2/3 through with season 3. Season 3, off the wall. Things are going down. Season 2 was really fun. Season 3 has been like, season 3 is where I was like, I need to watch 20 episodes of this in a day. Like, I need to absorb this as much as possible. Spencer says that you could probably, if you don't want to watch all like 12 or 13 seasons of it, you can just watch through the end of season 3 and there would be a satisfying enough ending where you could be like, and now I can put this down.
See, I can digest that because honestly, Breaking Bad is 5 seasons, and even then I'm like, oh, that's like such a lot. I still haven't finished Breaking Bad. I know.
Girl, we need to stop recording.
I agree.
And go watch that.
Okay, so we're going to stop recording to go watch Breaking Bad.
Laters. So there's all your recommendations. There's a bunch of stuff to watch, bunch of stuff to do. what is the outro again?
It's
No.
we're bad fans.
We're bad fans. I
We're
literally
also
was
bad
like,
SOs.
I know. No. I don't know it. You have a bunch of stuff to watch, to, I guess, read if you want to read the comics of Walking Dead. I haven't. Spencer has. He's probably talked about it before.
Reading.
So do that. Or don't. Live your life.
Live your gay lesbian life.